Welcome to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, bringing baby boomers proven strategies and innovative products for getting fit, staying fit, so you can live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Here's your host, best-selling author and fitness advocate, Phil Ferriss.
This is Phil Ferriss, and welcome to our show. We are in the middle of one of the biggest health and financial crises the world has ever experienced. The pandemic is touching people around the globe. While some countries and states are still in lockdown, others are testing the concepts and the boundaries of opening things up. Everyone accepts that things will be different when we get to the other side of this thing. We also acknowledge that we don't know what it's going to look like. That's why I'm calling this period in our personal histories the halftime in the game of life. How we come out of this will be defining moments for countries, for businesses, and millions of people. What we learn and how we adapt will set our life's trajectory for years to come. That is why I asked one of the world's best coaches to give us a halftime talk. He is on a mission, an absolute mission to motivate and inspire us all to be the best coach that we can be. My guest today is Martin Rooney. He is a best-selling author, Olympian, speaker, podcast host, 5-time on the top 100 most influential, and creator of Trainer for Warriors. He also just saw his book, Coach to Coach, become a bestseller. So I'm real thrilled to have him come in and give a halftime speech where he can inspire and motivate and give us some gifts that we can take with us that'll help us become the best version of ourselves on the other side of this crisis. Thank you for being on the show today, Martin.
My pleasure, Phil. I'm looking forward to hopefully firing everybody up and giving some people some energy at this really tough time.
Well, great. Now, before we get into your halftime talk, can you share why you hold being a coach in such high regard?
Wow. Well, right now, obviously, I just picked maybe the craziest time ever to release a book, and the book is called Coach to Coach, and it's kind of a manifesto of why I believe that it's not only an important job. I believe coaching is the most important job in the world, and if anybody says, "Oh, well, no, that should be reserved for world leaders or doctors or top sports stars," I would say, well, whoever made those people into those people, and it was coaches. And I'll be bold enough to say, for anybody listening right now, if you say, "Oh, well, if this is only about coaches and stuff, well, that's not me," you're wrong. If you're a husband or a wife or a brother or a sister or a teammate or a coworker, you are a coach to someone else. Man, it's the most important job, especially in the world right now, because not only are people trying to get their health and fitness back, not only are people trying to navigate the challenges that we have now, but they are fighting on a new battlefield, the one I am calling the 6 inches in between your ears. And in order to fight that one correctly, you got to have some coaches on your side.
And the thing that I became aware of is how many coachable moments there are in the day that we miss because we aren't looking at ourselves. Well, I don't have a clipboard. I don't have a whistle. I'm not a coach. And you look back and say, wow, I could have handled that differently. I could have elevated. And so I become more aware of them now. So I'm more in the moment. So I can step into being the coach as opposed to this is my coach role. You're always a coach. So that was the message I got out of it.
Absolutely. And not only are you always a coach, look what you just said, which I believe is important for everybody to understand. And I call it a lens. And depending on what lens you are always seeing everything that happens to you through, that will determine your thoughts and then determine your actions. So if you're looking through, imagine if you put on a pair of glasses that you saw everything as a coach, then you would do things very different. You would take things as teachable moments. You would try to say the right thing at the right time in the right way to the right person. You would try to be, like you just mentioned, elevating people or taking them to another level. I don't know. I've been wearing that set of glasses for the last 25 years. And it's my hope with the new book that people read this easy to read story, man, they're never the same. And they take advantage of those opportunities to make somebody better.
You know, Martin, you've said that the pandemic and the subsequent shutdown, lockdown, whatever you want to call it, is a gift. Can you explain why you see it as a gift?
And hey, I want to be crystal clear with everybody listening right now, depending on when you listen to this. Hey, hopefully someone is listening and we have reemerged from our homes and kind of getting back to some type of normalcy. If you're listening to it and you're still in a certain phase and you're still inside, I don't want to make light of this situation. I want everybody to understand, hey, when I say it's a gift and I'm going to explain it, this is also the greatest challenge that we have faced as a global community of human beings ever. We have this common enemy. So I want to make sure, people don't think, I'm sitting back and this isn't real. I've had many people not only affected physically by the virus in my life, but also economically, financially. So this is as serious as it gets. But what I meant on the concept of a gift is I have always tried to look for what I call the silver lining, right? And I've always found that in my greatest challenges in life, whether it was physical injury or career, really disasters or catastrophes, when they were over and I was able to see how it made me stronger, I saw that a lot of times those scars that you have leave some really great gifts behind. The one that I will say perhaps the most, or the silver lining to what has happened, and I'm sure this has happened to everybody in some way, is that this has revealed to us what should be really important. It has revealed what our ultimate priorities are and should be. And I got to admit, I was running around like I was on a rat race. It was 100 days of travel or 150 days of travel a year, running around nonstop, got to go, 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 go. Now to be forced into my house for now almost 8 weeks, first time I've done that in over 20 years, I have reconnected with my family. I've reconnected with my daughters. I've reconnected even better with my health and my fitness and my reading. All the things that I always said I just didn't have time for, now has shown me what was the most important stuff. And as a little motivation, you might like this. Here's a story. I'll tell the short version that I heard recently that really shows it. In 1912, in April, if everybody can remember, was the sinking of the Titanic, another catastrophe, a disaster. And this woman, remember, they put the women and the children in the lifeboats. They didn't do it correctly. Wealthy woman said, hey, I got to go back to my room for a few things. Can I do it? And they said, you've got 3 minutes. If you are not back here in 3 minutes with what you need, you're losing your spot on the boat. So you can be sure she made it back. When she got to that room, when she returned under that 3-minute time, she returned with a warm jacket and she returned with 3 oranges. In that room, she had left diamonds, emeralds, rubies, all her valuables. She came back with a sweater and she came back with 3 oranges. Why? She knew it was cold and she didn't know how long it'd take, so maybe she'd be hungry. And I'll tell you this, a handful of hours before, that woman would have never traded 1,000 oranges for 1 diamond, but now she had traded all of them for a couple, because in that moment of crisis, it really identified what was important. It really identified what the priorities were. I'm hoping if everybody listening to this, if you have not done this exercise yet, you need to really ask yourself, what has this shown me is most important? And you know what it is, Phil? It's our health. It's our family. It's our career and our purpose. And those are invaluable compared to what has happened so far. And it's why we're doing what we're doing. And I won't lose sight of that. Every time a little sadness crept in, like, you're not a human being if you haven't felt a little panic or fear or anxiety at this point. But what I'm going to tell everybody is, do not forget these lessons when we reemerge. And we will reemerge. So do not forget those things and then just jump right back to the rat race and then find yourself again saying, I wish I had time for all those things that were important. That was the long version. Like you said, you wanted me, like I always do, to give a little halftime talk. So I'm hoping that one was a little motivating one for everybody right there.
During a halftime, one of the first things a coach has to do is to kind of take a collective breath, clear the mind so that we have clarity and we can be receptive to the messages, because otherwise we're reacting to the combat that we just got out of. We're reacting day to day to the information we get and the panic that's perpetrated out there. Maybe you can talk a little bit about how you help people that are listening here, how to get through the storm, how to calm the mind so they are receptive to the signals and the noise.
Yeah. Well, here's a great one. And I talk to a lot of people, being in the position that I am, I have an opportunity to be around a lot of people that are way smarter than me. Right. And that's a little advice for everybody. You should always be hanging with some people that are way smarter than you in some area. I've been talking to psychologists. I've been talking to PhDs, who study the mind, sports psychologists, just to make sure that I have answers for my big Training for Warriors network and all the people that utilize it. What I immediately saw, and I'm sure everyone, like I said already, has experienced this, was when this all started, I think we've gone in phases, right? Like I think the first week or two, it was panic and it was fear and it was this unknown and what's going to happen. And some people really, they did not handle it well. And there were a lot of people making crazy moves and either saying or doing the wrong things on the internet or in person. And there was panic. We all remember going out to stores and buying out all the toilet paper. It was because people have not spent enough time in those 6 inches on their ears, and they don't know how to handle fear or anxiety when it appears when the rat race is removed. Then I think we went into a couple of next weeks where we settled in a little. It was everybody sending funny texts or, hey, I'm on a little vacation here. This is great. I think we went into a couple more weeks where we started to feel the economic impact and then again start to see that there was such unknown and we didn't know where this was going to go. And that fear and that anxiety kind of hit crashing on the shores again. And so what I'm trying to describe first is if everyone has experienced the ups and downs of the COVID-19 seclusion or quarantine, that's very normal. But how you handle it and how you respond to it is only decided by you, right? And I know this sounds very zen. I know this is the holy grail, if you will, that we search for in psychology for someone to accept. The only person that can choose how they feel is themselves. The only person that can think the thoughts and control them is themselves. And that is this greatest gift that we have as human beings, what separates us, right? But in the moments of fear and anxiety, we lose sight of that and panic. So here is a little, as you asked for, just to give that background, here are two things, right, that I want to give everybody that should be a great gift, help everybody feel better. I know it helped me. And it was my conclusion from all of the talking I was doing to everybody about fear and anxiety, which, by the way, I had not had to spend a lot of time studying because I hadn't had an experience like this before either. Fear and anxiety, to make it really simple. So just like my new book, which you read, Coach to Coach, guys, it's so simple. I try to make it very simple. I'm not trying to make things more complex, right? Like people make diet too complex. Oh, should I be gluten-free? Should I go keto? Should I do this? It's so much simpler than that. The same holds true as I've discovered for fear and anxiety. And here's how it works. Your level of fear or anxiety are controlled by a combination of only two things. And that is, and listen to the words carefully, your perceived amount of threat and your perceived ability to cope with that threat. The operative word right there, perceived. It's in your head anyway. You always control it, but let me take it deeper. So let's say right now a giant grizzly bear walks through my office door. That would be a high perceived amount of threat, and I would have a low perceived ability to cope. And therefore, man, I'm going to have a lot of fear and anxiety. Rightly so. That's why fear and anxiety were created for us. Like it's in our DNA. Yeah, that would have made me turn and run, fight or flight. That's how it works. But now say my 7-year-old daughter walks through the room and she's angry and baring her teeth. My threat level will be low and my perceived ability to cope, having trained UFC stars around the world and being a black belt myself, my ability to cope will be high and therefore low fear and anxiety. What is the advice? Right now you understand it. At least you know what it is or where it comes from. Well, then you have to embrace it. So one great halftime talk I would give to anybody right now anyway would be obviously how do we plan ahead for the next half of our lives? But right now I'm saying, what are you fearful about? Have you embraced that? Have you embraced your fears? And see, when I ask people this, Many say no. They say, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm panicking. And I say, well, what from? Well, the quarantine. And I said, well, what? What about it? And then when we really dig it out, and they might say, well, I'm afraid for my health. And I'll say, okay, so what can you do about that? Well, I can stay inside and wear the mask and gloves and do everything right. Okay, cool. And then the fear starts to subside because the threat goes down, ability to cope goes up. Oh, I'm afraid of my family members' health or my elderly family members. Okay, what can you do? Well, I can't control them, but I can make sure they stay inside best I can, do all these things. Again, the threat, the anxiety, it comes down. And then they might say, well, financially, or it's the economy, or whatever it is, you have to embrace what is it you're really afraid of, and then what action steps can you take to minimize that. When you do those things, you're going to feel better, sleep better, and you're doing something about it. That's a little gift right there. And again, another, you know how you said a gift, that's a gift I was given where for everybody listening too, guys, this is not our last crisis. This is not your last challenge. This will not be the last tough times you go through in your life. Actually, life is a series of those. And when we go into the second half, if you are in those age groups and you're listening, hey, they're gonna show, right? With our health, with our family members, we're gonna have challenges. And each one that comes should give you lessons on how to better handle that next wave when it comes crashing in. Hopefully, I just gave you a really, really important tool or mindset to be ready.
Let's say I'm one of those individuals that I start to reflect and I say, I embrace my fear. And I realize that I really haven't been using my first half of this pandemic very well. And I want to change going forward. Now, I've got the fear out of the way. What do I do next? How do I change what I'm doing so that when I get to the other side, I'm going to be the kind of person I want to be? Well,
here, I'll say it first with just one word. Then I'll give you 2 words, which will hopefully help everybody. But the first one, you ready? It's pretty, and again, making it simple as possible. And by the way, I'll give you a little simple nutrition lesson for everybody right now. Go out and buy the right food. You already know what it is. It's not fast food, fried food, stuff in a box, stuff with processed sugars. Don't buy that. Buy the right foods, fruits, vegetables, good, healthy, lean meats. Insert in whole under nose in the amount of calories you need a day. That'll never fail you, right? It's like, I know I'm saying that a little tongue in cheek. I dare everybody to try that before you come up with 100 reasons why it won't work, because it's actually served me really well for my first 49 years. What I'm getting at is I'm trying to make things very simple, because people like to make things complex and then do the opposite of what they know they should be doing. Now let's take that towards what do you do? So, oh man, I haven't used some of this time wisely. What should I do? And that word is action. The word is action. But I got to warn you, right, Phil? Listen to this. You'll love this. And for all the listeners, I have to warn everybody, though. Taking action only works 100% of the time. Did everybody hear that? Guys, take an action then. Wait, you didn't use it right? Then start right now. Oh, you haven't been eating right during this. Then start right now. Oh, I haven't been getting enough sleep. Then tonight, start right now. I haven't been drinking enough water. Then start right now. This is the piece that people, guys, it's not a knowledge problem why everybody didn't do these things. And here's the other thing when I say about the gift that we have been alerted to. And this is not a time problem either. Remember when people said, I didn't have time to eat with my family. I didn't have time to read those books. I didn't have time to get my workouts. Well, now people have more time than ever. And if they're still not doing it, then it was not a time problem. It was a discipline problem. And discipline, and I'm having a breakthrough right now, discipline is just nothing more than a series of actions repeated over time. Start with your actions. You show me your daily actions, I'll tell you who you are. Here is the philosophy, one that was given to me. A lot of people ask me, they say, who was my greatest coach? They say, oh man, you just wrote this great coaching book. 10,000 people around the world have it. Everybody's loving it. Who inspired you? And yes, I had a junior high and high school track coach that changed my life. There is no doubt. But my greatest coach, and a lot of people don't know this part of the story, was my mom. My mother was a physical education teacher, a high school teacher and coach. I was raised, you get 8 hours of sleep. You eat breakfast. Not only is it an important meal of the day, not the most important, everybody listening, every meal is the most important. It is a very important meal that's going to curb your hungers. It's going to make sure, hey, the studies show that eating a good breakfast, you're going to have less chance of being overweight. She said you will play sports. Physical activity is like the best thing you could do. So she was my original coach. She's the one that set me up to get coached by everybody else. But why I say that right now, I've been using this philosophy ever since. In my little bathroom that I used when I grew up, she used to do some needlepoint, and she put this stitching on the wall in there. And I would always read it when I was in there. And when I was a kid, I couldn't understand it. It was kind of like a Zen koan that you're trying to figure out. It said, today is the first day of the rest of your life. At first, today is the first day of the rest of my life. Today is the first day of the rest of my life. I couldn't get it. I didn't understand it. Then I would start to see glimpses of it. Then I would kind of understand it. And then as I probably got to about high school, then I got it. Oh, I didn't eat well yesterday? Well, today is the first day of the rest of my life. I can do this today and get started. Oh, I said the wrong thing yesterday, or I didn't get all my work done yesterday. Well, today is the first day. I can start today and just keep going. And then tomorrow will be that again and again and again. So the two words that I have for everybody listening, for your little halftime speech to go back out. Hey, nobody did it right for the first 40 or 50 years of their life. Not every piece, but that's where you learn from it, and that's where you grow from it. And then tomorrow will be first day. I'm challenging everybody, do it now. So with your actions right now, if you haven't done some of this right, well, sitting around and complaining about it's not going to work. Do something about it. Turn the Netflix off, throw the garbage food away, and get started. Because if you want to have another great 40 or 50 more years, it's got to start now. Why do I eat the way I do? Why do I train the way I do? Why do I do the stuff that I do every day? It's because I want to make sure that those next 40 or 50 years are the best ones I have with my family, that I get to then see the world and reap the benefits of all the stuff that I've learned. And if that's not an important purpose enough for everybody listening to make today the first day, then man, you got to still dig deeper to figure it out. So hopefully that one's a good one right there.
That's great. Why do you want to do this? For me, I'm 71 and I want to be able to play football and play basketball with my grandkids. I want to be able to coach. I want to be able to move and do all the things that I've always done. And the only way I can do that is to keep doing what I've been doing. And I see the people that are doing the things they love, whether it be golf or tennis or hiking or whatever, and they keep on doing it. And we look at each other and we say, don't stop, brother. Yep. Don't stop, sister, because we know.
Well, one that I had heard a long time ago that always stuck with me, and I know you'll agree with this, Phil. For everybody listening, I want to tell you this too. The body. I'm also an orthopedic physical therapist, just to make sure everybody knows, not just saying things. I also have 2 degrees in exercise physiology, and in particular, in my undergraduate programs, we had full programs at Furman University that were dealing with longevity and aging and the ability to build muscle into the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And I got to be part of all those studies. So it really inspired me. So I want everybody to understand, I may try to be the motivator right now, but I have a deep appreciation for the science and an understanding of the body and how it works as we age, to make it simple for everybody. And what you just said is a great one that I had gotten from a sensei of mine long ago. And he said, the door hinge that opens and closes every day doesn't get rusty. Right? Guys, if you haven't been doing anything, you got to get started, but go easy. And why I'm saying this is, I still think, so Phil, it's hard for me. You know, how you said you're 71. When I say I'm 49, I cannot believe it. When I say that, I think I'm 21. Like, I don't think after 21, I don't think there's a part of me that ever thought I was getting any older, but I know it. And can I do all the things that I did when I was 21? No. And I don't want to, because I think that would be dangerous or I would injure myself. Do what I can do, always in the boundaries of that, and just making sure that I am always battling father time, right? But doing it the right way. And that involves action and eating right and getting enough sleep. So embracing that as I get older, I want to be the best I can be at 50 and then 55 and 60. And that now becomes my new goal. So for everybody listening, if you're doing stuff, keep doing stuff, because that's how it's going to be very important. If you aren't, you got to start taking action and then make it consistent until it becomes an unconscious habit. And once you've done that, man, you got it. And it doesn't take that long. Like this COVID experience has also taught me a lot about habits where I'm going to be honest. Well, and I'm honest the whole time when I'm talking, but I say that meaning like, hey, here's some truth. When I got pushed into my house, I don't like working out in my home. That's not what I like doing. I like being outside, or I like being at the gym, but I couldn't. And the first handful of days, or maybe the first week or the second week, it was hard. But now it's a habit now. Like now I just come down, get my workout done. I do my things. I've got all these new habits, made sure they were good habits. And I'm just hoping that if everybody has not done some of those things, like here would be ones that wouldn't be so great, that you just spend all the time now catching up on all your shows on Netflix for 10 hours straight a day. Probably not a great habit, right?
Not a great habit.
Yeah. Or sitting on the couch all day, or going to bed at 3 a.m. and then waking up at 2 p.m. because now you don't have to be at work. See, it's as easy to fall into the wrong habits as the right ones, but you're the one that chooses them. And I've always heard this is pretty cool. And then eventually it seems like your habit chose you, but you didn't. Like you choose the habit. It can start today, first day, for a little pep talk, whatever things you wanted to become or who you want to be when this is over, it starts today and with those actions you take.
So it all begins and ends with the actions. Now I have a question also that a lot of what you're talking about sounds like I just have to have a lot of self-discipline and I just got to use willpower. Are there things other than discipline and willpower that can help you get and build those habits that will increase the likelihood that they become part of your lifestyle?
Absolutely. Well, here's what I would say. Obviously, discipline and willpower come from what your drivers, so here's what I say. I have been motivational speaking for professional teams, Fortune 500 companies, youth teams, everything for a couple of decades. I know this fact. You ready, Phil? I know this fact. When I'm speaking in front of 500 or 1,000 people, I know some people are going to listen and do it, and I know some people aren't. But I'm going to treat everybody like they are. But why sometimes the motivation won't work is there has to be something inside that person that drives them first. So there has to be the driver. So right now, everybody listening, see, you heard Phil, like Phil wants to stay in shape. Phil wants to be there for his grandkids. Phil wants to continue to have a great life and as long as he can and be active. That's his driver. And then when he hears me give some motivation, boom, it works. So everybody's got to identify that driver, which is very important. And this is what you can't run from. Just like your fears, you got to embrace the things that motivate you too. Here's what I would say in addition to that. It's your environment. It's the people you're around. Hey, you wanna work out? Well, get a workout partner. You know what has really helped me a ton? My daughter, and has also been silver lining, my oldest daughter, who's is a top ranked heptathlete for her age group in the U.S. And man, this was the big year for hoping to hear from all the colleges and what college is she going to go to. We train in some capacity every day. And you know what? Me working out with a 17-year-old has me on fire, right? Like I got to be better than her and inspiring her. What I'm getting at is surround yourself with either other people that have a like-mindedness. Now, I get it. Right now, is that harder than ever? Yes, but get on a Zoom call. Talk to your friends. You can work out, FaceTime. I don't know. Do something is going to inspire you, but don't do it alone is what I'm saying. So, hey, if it's your family members and you want to get them doing stuff, do that with them. When this is over, make sure you surround yourself in an environment of like-minded people. Like who's your mastermind? Who's your workout partner or team? Who's the team you're around? When this is over, really identify that and surround yourself with it. I think here's another silver lining that I'm just discovering right there. We are social beings. The fact that in some ways that has been stripped from us it's really challenging to us. We want to be around people. We want to be motivated by people and make sure you don't forget it. So when this is over, that you take advantage of it.
And the thing I would like to link back to what you said before is when you do realize you have a choice of who you associate back with. So the puzzle's been kind of scrambled. You can re-put it together on the other side. So start putting together with the pieces that will make sure that they give you the scaffolding and support you need to do the things that you found and discovered are important to you. And this is some of the things I'm learning is that I played tennis, so I had to be at tennis. I had lacrosse practice. I had to be at lacrosse. Those were all things that set up that forced me to have the discipline to show up and do things. When you take those away, now I have my willpower. And it wasn't as good. And I started doing walks with my wife because that was important. But our walk is not as good as a 45 minutes high intensity workout for me. So I have to realize where my choices weren't leading me in the direction I wanted to be in. And so I had to make some other choices. You are at choice. And I think that's one of the key messages I've gotten from what you've said today.
It is the biggest thing, right? Like another classic book for everybody listening, and I've gone back to my library so much during this and really read some classics that had inspired me when I was young. In addition to having Coach to Coach on your library shelf, you need a couple of these books I'm going to mention. One is Man's Search for Meaning. Like, listen to that title, right? Viktor Frankl. He's this psychologist, so he's already studying the mind. He was writing a book, and then in the World War, he's placed into the worst concentration camp. His family stripped, his wealth stripped, everything stripped from him. And that's where he really discovered the ultimate gift was that no matter what is taken away, only you control your mind. Only you control your thoughts. Only you can control how you respond to a situation. And once he had discovered it and hey, ultimately embraced it in the greatest challenge, which makes our challenge, by the way, seem like nothing. We're pushed into our homes with our family. No one can imagine that. It gave him strength and a boundless energy, and he survived. You can go to like other stories, like the Ernest Shackleton incredible expedition and adventure. And I read all of these types of books, and they all, in the ultimate moment of crisis and when they are pushed to the brink, they all find this peace and calm because they ultimately control how they respond. And you were just saying it right there too, that, hey, yeah, is everything going to be as good right now? No, but you can decide what you do. You're in control. And by having that, it's called a locus of control. And that came from Frankl. If you've got that locus of control, you're going to be okay. Right now, I'm challenging everybody. You should be searching for that. This is whether you want to call it the deep work, inside job, this is the tough stuff. What I like what has happened from what we've talked about today too is, hey, we will all agree this is going to be over. And you get to decide who you are when you emerge from this. I like to say, like a cocoon right now, we are a caterpillar transforming into something new. We're developing new habits, new freedoms. We're going to get to say who we are when we emerge from this struggle. If you can really understand that or see that clearly, who you want to be when you step out of this cocoon, then you got to take certain actions right now. And I'm hoping today that this little talk inspired everybody to make sure they're the right ones.
That's a very powerful message. And now we're ready to go out and play the second half and see what we'll be, what we'll become, I guess is really the key message. Before we close down here, I want to talk a little bit more about your Coach to Coach, because it did have an impact on me. And so I want to ask two questions. Who is it for and why did you really write it?
Wow. The book, it's pretty interesting. What I'll start off by saying is when people hear the title, and that was not the original title I wanted, but the publishing house, and this is Widely Publishing, one of the biggest publishing houses in the world. They're the guys that do John Gordon's books and Patrick Lencioni's books. It was so amazing that they picked the book up. No rejections, no nothing. Boom. They said, this is the best one we've read. We got to have it. When I had suggested the initial title that I wanted, they said, nah, we got to at least get this into the hands of the lowest hanging fruit. And who identifies themselves with the term coach more than coaches. So at least let's call it Coach to Coach, because we know then all sport coaches and anybody that calls themselves a coach will buy it. I guess I agreed. What I knew deep down is that the book was written for way more people than just coaches. And here's the leap that I want everybody to make. Everybody is a coach. You've been pushed into your home right now. If you've got children, you're now a teacher. If you got pushed into your home right now, you're there a coach. And for your wife and your spouse and your family members that you talk to, everybody right now has to do a good job coaching somebody else up. That's what I've been doing today, right? And not because I was anointed a coach. It's because I identify and again, see through those lenses that I always want to take advantage of a coaching moment. Where the book was inspired or where it came from is I teach courses on coaching. So I teach a course called Coaching Greatness. I've taught it in 30 countries around the world. Tens of thousands of people have gone through the course live, and we have an online version too. Everybody would always say after it, they were so impacted. They would say, you got to write a book on this. You got to write a book on this, which, by the way, that's a big thing to tell somebody, like, hey, go write a book on this. Like, it's not that easy, but it showed me that people wanted more. And I said, well, what am I going to write, right? Like, I've written a number of other books, but they were oftentimes exercise or physical training books. But for coaching, it doesn't work like that. Like, you'll love this one, Phil. A great line I like to say is, coaching would be easy if it wasn't for the people. Yeah. And so what I mean there is, guys, everybody's so different, and you gotta know how to coach that person that's right in front of you right then. It's an art as much as it is a science. And that's what my courses were about. So then I said, well, wait a minute. What am I really good at? What do people love? They love my story. And I said, what if I write a book of a story with stories within the story and then use that to teach the messages? That was the genesis of how Coach to Coach got started. And man, and once I got going, I just sat and I wrote. It flowed out of me. Once it was done, I had no agent, no editors. I sent it right to Wiley, and the top senior editor wrote me back, said it was the best one they had seen. And now, what I originally believed is true. Now, I'm getting emails every day from people around the world, and they are not coaches. There's coaches too, but they're moms, they're dads, they're grandparents. They're just people that are like, oh my gosh, this book really hit me, and it's talking to me, and I can hear that, man, this happened to me too, or this is going to really help me with how I'm going to use some of these strategies now. Ultimately, so short answer, the book is for everybody, male, female, old, young, mom, dad, coach, anybody's going to benefit. And why did I do it? Because I believe coaching is the most important job in the world, and now we're seeing that more than ever.
If people want to learn more about you and training for warriors, or to get the book, where should they go, Martin?
Yeah, well, hey, Amazon.com is the easiest place right now. I hope everybody can appreciate the book. My books, some of them are in Barnes and Nobles and stuff, but bookstores aren't open. And what happened was a lot of the books never shipped as a result. So even if yours is open in your town right now, depending on what phase you're in, Amazon's the best bet. You can't go wrong. You'll have the book in a day. Man, I promise people will love it. And there's an audio version. There's a Kindle version. So whatever learning style people like, they will love it. And I promise, if you haven't read a book in a while, I took that into account. People read this thing in a couple of sittings, right? And I mean, top coaches are behind it. Coaches like Lou Holtz, if you know him, Dan Gable, and Rooney from the movie Rooney said it's one of the best stories he's read. I implore everybody, we've talked about habits today and who you want to be. Guys, you are who you're going to be when you come out of this is going to be the actions you take. I believe in a big way, the things that you read and the new ways that you think. And I'm hoping that this book inspires that for somebody. Everybody, if you like this, I also have a podcast called Into the Roar. I am on Instagram at @TheMartinRooney. I'm on Facebook. I have 2 websites, trainingforwarriors.com and coachinggreatness.com. There are blogs, more information, videos. And I'm wishing everybody well at this time. And I really hope that some of the things, if you take them to heart, what I said today, I promise they're going to help you and they're going to work.
Well, I'm going to say thank you so much, Coach Rooney. And I mean that with all respect that the word coach means. Your messages, both today and in your work, have touched me, and they've touched thousands upon thousands of people. And I just hope everybody hears this, takes action to make your life and your people around you better. Martin, thank you so much for sharing your vision and your passion with us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Have a great one.
You've been listening to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, hosted by Phil Ferris. To learn more about the guests or resources on our show today, or to listen to past episodes, go to nevertoolateforfitness.com.